Okay, so I'm starting a new line of videos. It's going to be a series called Quick Takes, where I give takes that won't exceed 10 minutes, but it's going to be very informative. I'm going to try to jam as much information as I can into the videos as possible. All right, it's going to range from a bunch of different topics that I find interesting, and but topics that I don't have too much to say about, that it's not worth doing a long ass video about. So this is one of those videos. It's about Chris Paul coming back to the Rockets and the Rockets' emergence. They look like a different team when Chris Paul came back after James Harden. Like once they stopped the isolation ball, it seems like the team was far more effective than when James Harden is out there trying to get his 30 points. They're going to start talking, and I'm just going to chime in here and there. Okay.
All right, so when the Rockets announced that James Harden wasn't going to play in that ABC Saturday night primetime matchup between the Rockets and Warriors, a lot of assumptions Houston had no chance. But no, Rockets came out huge in that game right from the jump. They beat the two-time defending champs for the second time at Oracle this season. Tim, you were at that game. Were you more encouraged by the Rockets? Were you disappointed in the Warriors? Where was the balance in that one?
Definitely more encouraged by the Rockets. The Warriors, they're going to sleepwalk in some regular season games. I think definitely, they were. There was a little bit of a letdown there with Harden being out, but for the Rockets here, this was a huge win, and not just because of the competition, but Kenneth Faried. You see him there, Stretch Faried. Starting at power forward, and that was the first time they had Faried and Capella on the floor together. Rebounding has been a huge problem for them. If that lineup works, that can solve a lot of issues for the Rockets, and it definitely worked the other night with PJ Tucker sliding down a small forward. So,
all right. Now, I don't watch a whole bunch of Houston Rocket content, but from what I understand, Kenneth Faried has been a quality addition to the team. I agree with what he said. I think it said more about the Rockets because nobody expected the Rockets to win this game. Nobody expected them to win the game the way that they did. And since the Golden State Warriors 72-10 regular season a few years ago, I'm pretty sure they stopped putting a whole lot of stock in the regular season. They do just enough to get the number one seed, maybe, and just so they can have home court throughout their conference, and that's really what they focus on. That's what they focus on. Back when they went for the 72-win season, when you listen to Draymond Green talk, I mean, the focus just didn't seem like they wanted to focus, going into the playoffs. They really wanted to set that record, so they were distracted from the jump. And then when they finally got to the finals, I mean, Cleveland just, I don't know. After going down 3-1, they decimated them for 3 straight games, and Draymond didn't help it by getting suspended. But yeah, man. This is why, as a professional athlete, your focus should be steered in a certain direction. You should never deviate from what the main end goal is. The moment you do that, the moment you get distracted, you'll be taken out. So I think they learned their lesson, and they're moving on from there. I think they got the right mindset. Right now, they're just focused on playing quality basketball into the playoffs. And then once the playoffs start, the Warriors is pretty much going to be unstoppable, man. There's nobody that's going to be able to stop them. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to blow teams out. They're going to win every series for nothing. But I don't see one team in the NBA that can beat them definitively 4 games out of 7. So
the Faried Capella combination clip. CP3 is playing the best basketball he's played all season long. He looks fresh. He looks like he has the same kind of juice that he had last season. And then that is a huge deal for Houston.
So he's in activation mode too?
he's in healthy right now mode for sure.
So I think it's way bigger for the Rockets than it is for the Warriors, because so much of what their identity is that they were the team that could have beat the Warriors in Game 7 if Chris Paul didn't get hurt, right? They were the team that took the Warriors all the way to the final. In their minds, they win that series if Chris doesn't get hurt. And so,
all right, real quick, I'm gonna stop it right there, man, because a lot of people have that assumption that the Warriors would have lost that game if Chris Paul would have played. A lot of things would have had to gone the Houston Rockets' way in that Game 7. And last year, you could just tell Last year, there was just a different air surrounding the Golden State Warriors. They weren't as focused as they were the year prior. Like, after they lost to Cleveland, came out with Kevin Durant, they wanted to prove a point. They wanted to prove they were the best team, and they proved it by dominating. And then they came out last year, and it seemed like they were just on sleep mode until the NBA Finals, where they actually had to prove how dominant they were. I don't believe that I don't believe the Rockets would have beat them in Game 7, but I believe that they would have had a better chance to beat them in Game 7. I don't believe they would have won. So that's where I differ from everybody else's opinion. I differ from the popular opinion in that respect.
You see him out there dominating the way he did, having the kind of game he did without James. That's huge for them.
Yeah, and I do think the confidence is there. You know, I sat down with James Harden last week, and one thing we talked about was all last week, every time you talked to the Rockets, they were like, we think we can take the Warriors. Every time throughout the season, their confidence was off the charts. They didn't end up doing it, but they felt they could. This season, I did not see until maybe last week the first little inkling of them thinking, oh, we could be there in the Western Conference Finals, and then we have a shot. And this game, to me, was sort of their moment because they beat the Warriors last time in overtime on that crazy miracle shot from James. That's not as much of a confidence-building win as a, hey, it went in win. Whereas this one, they beat them. And the Chris Paul point, to your point, is such a big deal. I want to check out the Who is in the Zone, brought to you by AutoZone. Chris definitely earned this one. 23 points, 17 assists in the win. And look, Tim, again, you're around this team all the time. Chris Paul's health has been a factor. And people keep saying, it's funny, I kept hearing during the streak, people say, you know, when Chris comes back, James won't have to do as much. Chris has been back, and people almost didn't even notice, right? Because he wasn't able to contribute at his level. And I've heard you say at times throughout this season, you weren't sure he could get back to the player he was last year.
All right, I'm just gonna give my take right here, and then I'm done. All right. The problem with isolation basketball is it pretty much puts everybody else on the floor in a box. When you have a player that plays one-on-one basketball almost, I would say 80% of their possessions, that puts everybody else in a box. That's the problem that LeBron has. And this is why the Lakers are struggling right now, is because when certain players have a certain role, they're used to that role. They get used to that role. So when a team like the Lakers, who won 35 games last year, you know, they look relatively average for most of the season, man, but, you know, they show some bright spots. I'm not one of those pessimists that believe that they were just trash. I believe that they show some bright spots, especially with Lonzo Ball in the lineup. They show some bright spots and some glimmer of hope that this could be turned into something pretty fantastic. But when you add an ingredient like LeBron James, what it does is it immediately stops whatever everybody else is doing. The role that everybody else has changes. You know? So there's only one basketball. And LeBron likes to control the basketball. He likes to be the guy that decides for most of the possessions what happens. You know, and it's like most of these LeBron James fans believe that you should just be grateful that he considers you when it comes to taking a shot, when he, you know, needs to dish it out. You know, and I don't think that's how good basketball needs to be. And this is the problem he's having. This is why he's finding it hard to win, is because going up against higher talent, going up against better talent, when he's faced up against a team like the Golden State Warriors or the Boston Celtics, he's forced to do something different because his style of play is so limited that it's almost easy to predict what he's going to do. And that's the problem with James Harden, especially in the playoffs. They gotta re-engineer James to play in that system. Houston could be the Houston from last year if you could get James Harden to buy into Mike D'Antoni's system. Just buy into what it was last year. You know, I mean, it could be a three-point party if you want it to be, but pass the ball more, move the ball. That's the one thing a defense, it's hard for a defense to defend, is when you move the ball effectively. And that's what makes the Golden State Warriors so tough to beat. It's not that they're talented, more talented than anybody else. It's that they move the ball, man. Their system is so predicated on everybody being able to do so many things at the same time that they all do it at a high level, and it works. And especially when the ball movement is happening. You know, and that's the one thing that Boston is missing. Boston is missing that ingredient, being able to move the ball effectively. 2 years ago when Isaiah Thomas was on the team, you saw more ball movement than you do now that you have Kyrie, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown is starting to play a little better, and Marcus Smart. Like, you just see a lot of more ball stopping than you actually do ball movement. But I think that's the problem with the Rockets. And the only way they're gonna be able to reach that level that they had last year is if Chris Paul becomes the main ball handler. I mean, he can share some of the responsibilities with James, but James can't get caught up in that. I need to shoot a whole bunch of three-pointers in this game if we have a chance to win. Because that's hero ball mode. Once you get in the hero ball mode, it's very easy to predict what you're going to do. It's very easy to predict what you're going to do, and that's what he needs to get out of. All right, that's it for this. This is my first quick take video. All right.
That you change your mind on that?
He looks like that guy right now. You look at the last 7 games, he's kind of chipped.